What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have something new. Bells of Steel Omni Man Swiss bar. Now this is the Arch Nemesis bar with upgrades that have been made based off of recommendations from, if you know him, Bald Omni Man, Paris Butler. I'll flash him up right here. And I've been using Swiss bars for the last 5 years now. And the reason for that is it's much easier on the shoulders. I have a reoccurring, for whatever reason, whenever I do a straight bar press, either bench press or overhead press, I get bad pain that starts in my shoulder. So I started using a Swiss bar back in 2020. I ordered my first bar. It was a Fringe Sport football Swiss bar. What that is just a, there's no camber to it. It was just a straight bar with angled handles. And that was the first time I used something that I was like, wow, my shoulder feels great. So at the start of this video, I'm just gonna say, if you have shoulder issues with bench pressing, the Swiss bar is definitely gonna be something you're gonna wanna try out. And then the cambered bars, I'm gonna talk about that, bring that to the next level in terms of getting more stretch and whatnot. So I started with that Fringe Sport bar, and then eventually what happened, because initially Swiss bars, football bars, they didn't have great knurling, some of them on the handles. That one had barely any knurling. I remember I had to use chalk a lot when I used that handle. Now, obviously that's 5 years ago. Their design has changed since then. So when I got going with other Swiss bars, I started getting a lot of comments recently on the channel because I always had a Swiss bar, cambered Swiss bar on my rack behind me. And people would always say, Nick, what's that bar you're using? Is that the Fringe Sport bar or is that something else? No, that was, I guess you can call it a knockoff bar that I bought on Amazon almost 2 years ago. It popped up, it was cheap. I ordered it and I never saw it again. So I don't know if there was an issue with it in terms of the design that they weren't allowed to resell it, but I never saw it again. And it served its purpose, actually a pretty good bar. I ended up selling my Fringe Sport bar because I liked that camber bar enough that I moved over to that. Now, fast forward to now, we have the Bells of Steel cambered Swiss bar. And I really wanted to see what I'd be getting for the money with this bar versus that other one that I had. This is over $200. You can check the website to see. They have deals sometimes that go on, so you can maybe get it for less money. Now, some of the improvements that they made on this bar that I'm aware of so far is one, the sleeves. First of all, the sleeves are non-rotating, keep that in mind. The sleeves use standard collars. Some Swiss bars you have to use axle collars. I think the old Arch Nemesis had axle collars. So you don't have to do that. You can use standard collars on this bar. They changed the width so that it works with more racks. This worked perfectly with my Rogue that I have here. And on top of that, the knurling, I believe, is more aggressive, which was really nice. And that's something I want to get into because I spoke about how the Fringe Sport bar, when I had that 5 years ago, there was like the knurling, if there was any, was super underwhelming to the point where I had to use chalk because if my hands were sweaty, it just didn't feel comfortable. This has a lot more knurling than the knockoff bar I was using, but it feels phenomenal. It's not too aggressive. You get locked in tight. I never felt like I had to use chalk when I was using this bar, so that's something to keep in mind. Now, these Swiss bars generally are not 45-pound bars. This one's 24 pounds. So you have to keep that in mind when you're loading up. I did some bench pressing today. I have 205 loaded on the bar in this video here. And you have to keep in mind because you're gonna load stuff and you're not gonna remember sometimes the weight, okay? I went up to a 255 bench today on this just to test out the waters. It was a little squirrely. I hadn't benched that and I'm on a cut right now. So whatever excuse I wanna make, but I hit it fine. Wasn't a problem. What I will say about this bar that I like a lot compared to the other one I was using, which was apparently a knockoff of the Bells of Steel, is that I find I get, the handles are wider on this compared to the other one. And I also seems like there's more stretch in the bottom position, which is really nice. I actually had to move my safeties down. So that just shows you that there's more stretch. The way that the weight is going down, there's gonna be more stretch on the pec, which is really nice. I also measured the handles on this one versus the other one I was using. The other one had 6-inch handles and this has 5-inch handles. And that makes this feel way more balanced compared to the other bar I was using. And that was a problem I actually had when I was using the straight, you know, Swiss football bar that I had from Fringe Sport. It always just felt like it wanted to kind of tip, and when you'd bring it down, it was just cumbersome, especially with like if you tried to do any military presses with it, anything like that. So today I did the bench pressing with it. I used this with my seal row, which I thought was great. My other one that I was using, since it was an inch wider, didn't fit properly with the Syenergee GMWD seal row. But this felt great, it fit. You get nice range of motion with the rows. And then on top of that, something that Bald Omni Man does if you watch his content, first of all, if you don't have a seal row, go check out his videos. He uses this barbell, you know, this Swiss bar with an inclined bench to mimic sort of like a seal row. But then another thing I saw him do that I never really thought about before was using this as a pull-up bar. And I did that as well in this video. You could see that I used it as a pull-up bar. That worked out great. I wasn't sure how stable it was gonna feel, but to be honest with you, it's something that I could see myself doing. I know I complain in my videos that I have low ceilings. My pull-up bar sometimes just kind of stinks to use because it's pretty tall and it causes problems. I've never hit my head before, but my head has to go basically in between the rafters in order to use a pull-up bar. You know, it also has an attachment for, you know, cable pull downs, which I didn't do because my gym, home gym, small home gym, tight, I don't see how I could comfortably use a full-size barbell to do pull downs with. I mean, in theory, maybe if you have a rack set up with a pull down cable attachment in the center of it, it doesn't change anything because you're going from it being racked for a bench or a pushing motion to just using it as a pull. But having to bring this over to my cable machine and use it, that's a no-go for me. Now, a couple things I want to talk about in terms of where I think are negatives, but not like huge problems or anything. So the sleeves are powder coated black. Immediately I can tell they're eventually going to get worn down from the plates coming on and off of it. My old one that was the knockoff bar had like chrome sleeves, which got banged up, but obviously a little smoother surface. On top of that, this is just a nitpicking aesthetics type thing, the stenciling that they put on it for Omni Man, it's not sprayed perfectly in a lot of places. I shouldn't say a lot of places, but you could see that the decal kind of wasn't put on totally right. Whatever, nitpicking, I don't care. I'm probably gonna hit it on stuff that's gonna get scratched off. It doesn't really matter to me, right? So it's not that big of a deal. Other than that, I'm really impressed with this bar. Like, I know that it's on the expensive side for someone that's just looking for a specialty bar, because most people don't want to add just like a, you know, a $250 specialty bar or something like that. For me, this is invaluable because I can't use a regular barbell anymore. So with that being said, I think this is really going to be something that if you have shoulder issues, if you're looking to get a specialty bar added, this is really one that I'm gonna recommend it. And there's not gonna be any affiliate links in this video. I don't have an affiliate with Bells of Steel, you know, but this is something that I think more people need to experiment with, because I always hear people talking about joking that their shoulder hurts when they bench press, right? Well, then why aren't we doing something like this that's gonna help take that stress off the shoulder? So I think this is definitely something that you guys should check out. If you have any questions, you could let me know. Make sure you drop your comments below, like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.